Let me tell you why I think London is the best place on earth for taking photographs. Keep watching. There's beauty everywhere in the world if you want to look for it. But for me, the best place for taking pictures is London, the capital of England. For me, it has everything that I love taking pictures of. It has people, it has great characters, it has cityscapes, it has wonderful architecture, fantastic artworks, it has history, it has modern, it has everything a photographer would want. And just to prove the point, I actually went down there just for 24 hours, just a single overnight stay, to take some pictures, just to show you what you might be missing. And as soon as I arrived in London, it was off for a cup of tea down to my favourite place, the South Bank, and into Gabrielle's Wharf. And I knew I'd get a good cuppa there, but when I arrived, there were so many people, hundreds of people. What on earth was going on? Well, I couldn't believe my eyes, because an inspirational puppet called Little Amal came walking around the corner. Now, Little Amal is a giant puppet of a Syrian refugee child created to symbolise the millions of displaced children, and it had walked an amazing 5,000-mile journey across Europe from the border of Syria and was now heading across the UK. And today it happened to be in the great city of London where I was, and let me tell you, it was a privilege to see, and I couldn't resist a picture. So with all those people there, I needed to get a high vantage point, but I managed to get up a fire escape and look down on the crowd, and it had to be black and white. It was a news event, so there's my picture, and you can see it's Gabrielle's Wharf, look, and you can see the crowds of people. And then I waited for the people to really congregate around Amal, and then a little girl, look, lifted onto a parent's shoulders. She reached out to Amal and their hands just touched. What a special moment. So I followed Amal down to the National Theatre where the crowds were waiting and the choir sang from the balcony. It was a beautiful moment. And then after that, the crowds dispersed and I made my way over to the Hayward Gallery. And on the way, I spotted this little picture here. I really couldn't resist this one. This is a bit of a social documentary picture, I suppose. Or you could say it's me being an old dinosaur, because, you know, when I was their age, the guys in these pictures here, I would have been riding that bike. We rode our bikes everywhere. It's what we did. We didn't have anything else. That's how we got around. And I kind of like the fact that that bike is there against the railings and they're there, look, with their electronic devices, their phones, and they're communicating with other people, which is great. You know, they're in touch with other people. But here's me, not thinking, what phone have they got? I'm thinking, I wonder what sort of bike that is. Anyway, I carried on to the Hayward Gallery, went in, and then saw this. And again, it's another variation on a theme, isn't it? Because, you know, we have the phones here, the person in the foreground here, inside the gallery waiting to go in is on their phone. The person outside the gallery is standing with their back to that wonderful painting, that mural on the wall, look, that fantastic, colourful painting. And yet they've probably seen it before because they're looking at their phone and communicating with somebody, and the person in the background is reaching into their pocket. I wonder what they're getting out. A phone, maybe? Who knows? Anyhow, a great trip to the gallery, and by the time we came out, the sky was getting into that lovely blue hour, so we took a stroll along the river, have a little look over the wall, and water's high, look. It's a tidal river, the Thames, so isn't that lovely with the lights twinkling? Can't resist a little picture there looking towards St Paul's. There you go. As you can see, I've waited for a couple to come and stand having a look at the view, which gives me a silhouette and gives me some perspective to the view. And now the night descends. The blue hour's on the way out, and the colours in the buildings get much yellower, and people start coming into the city to discover just what it has to offer at night time. Walking back to the hotel along the river, and we've lost the blue in the sky now, look. But I have managed to find a bridge that's got some blue lights, LED lights underneath. Wait for some passers-by to give me some perspective and silhouette. And with three people, with the rule of odds, it kind of works, doesn't it? And the next morning I'm up bright and early and I'm photographing buildings. If your architecture is your thing, London's the place to go. Look at that wide shot there. I close in on the building, get a little bit better perspective, and I love those vapor trails. Look, and it's making that red building stand out against the blue sky. Should I go closer? What about using the light? Look at the sunlight reflecting off the windows. Does that work? Is that better than before? I don't know. Let's move the angle. No, I like it like that, particularly with the red cranes. That's really working, isn't it? Those red cranes on the right look great. Not the one on the left, so let's lose that. There you go, bit of Photoshop. Lost one of the cranes, two of the cranes. That's a nice picture, isn't it? Blue, red. Oh, but it doesn't just have to be colour. Let's grab a black and white. I like this building here. I like the lines that it's making. And I was on my way to a building that's definitely worth a photograph. Take a look at this. Wow, look at that. That is the Great West Door of Westminster Abbey. That's right, it's the Abbey that is it sort of backs onto Westminster, the Houses of Parliament. And what you're looking at here are 10 statues of modern martyrs. These are Christians who lost their life through their Christian belief. So at the bottom, we have, going from left to right, truth, justice, mercy, and peace. And at the top, from left to right, we have Maximilian Kolbe, Manch Massamola, Janani Luwum, Elizabeth of Russia, Martin Luther King, Oscar Romero, Dietrich Bonhoeffer, Esther John, Lucien Tapiedi, and Wang Ziming. Please excuse me if I got any of those pronunciations wrong. Now, as we are on the Westminster side, let's have a stroll down by the Thames and have a look not at the red phone boxes, but at the London Eye. That famous London Eye. That's got to be worth stopping for a photo, hasn't it? If you've only ever seen this on the London New Year's Eve fireworks, then it's definitely worth coming and seeing during the day. It's a great trip around. You get some great views of London from there. And of course, it's opposite New Scotland Yard. Hello, hello, hello. What's going on here then? Oh, and also worth mentioning, by the river outside New Scotland Yard is the fantastic new memorial to the Battle of Britain that took place over the skies of London. It's a fantastic monument, definitely worth seeing. I've just done this little snap of the way the figures come out of the bronze and look as though they're actually sort of coming to life. Now, as I make my way back across Westminster, I can't help noticing that you get these squares in the sky because the busy airports of London have got aircrafts and they go as though they're on strings or wires or something, and they make these perfect squares across the sky. I've never really seen it anywhere else, but it always looks good on a picture. But not as good as the Queen's lifeguards do. There's always two of them here outside this archway, and always available to have their picture taken as long as you don't get too close. And going through the arch is definitely worth it. You'll be rewarded with Horse Guards Parade, where the trooping of the colour takes place, and this fantastic building here. And we've got those square vapor trails too. That's got to be worth a black and white. Oh, I've gone for super contrast on this one, and you can see why with that red filter skies really brought those vapor trails to life. And against the building, look at that fantastic building. It's almost looking like some Victorian sort of silver gelatine print, isn't it? You know, the way that the brickwork is reflecting some of the light. I love that. Architecture, so nice to photograph in bright light with the contrast and the shadows. Next stop for me after a short tube journey is Marble Arch, and this temporary installation called Marble Arch Mound, this sort of scaffolding, and it's been planted out and whatnot. But on the way up in the on all these steps I was going up, I couldn't help noticing the pigeons living on the side. Well, I couldn't resist. Boom! And that was my picture. You can see Marble Arch down there. You can see the Marble Arch Mound and how steep that is. You can see the pigeons living on the side. I just needed them to liven that sky up. And a quick Clap of the hands was all it took to get a few of them into the air and make the picture. Sometimes you just got to make it happen. And when we got down from the Marble Arch Mound, which was free, of course, to go in, you didn't have to pay, I thought that was it. But no, I was told that there was a light show, and we went in through some dark curtains, and inside was all these lights and mirrors and amazing effects. And, you could go up and see what they'd done. Look at that. It's absolutely astonishing, isn't it? You just look around and it almost makes you feel like you're caught in some sort of, I don't know, spider's web or something. And I pushed the camera against the glass and got some really nice effects. I have to say, some of them are really surreal, and you just couldn't stop looking at them, and it did feel like you were caught in a hawthorn bush. And that's what it would be like if you were an insect stuck and that was your way out. You had to try and get through that. Look, horrendous. Mirrors and lights, amazing. But enough of all this. It's time to get back the other side of the river, because I've got an appointment. And on the way over, I grabbed this little shot of the canoeist heading down the Thames. It was quite nice. But I am heading towards somewhere magnificent. And here it is, peering out through the modern buildings, keeping an eye on modern London, is the grand old Duke of them all, St Paul's Cathedral, towering above with its dome. Can't wait to get in and have a look. I've never actually had a good look around, and they tell me you can go up to the very top. You can go up to the dome, but you can go to the very, very top and get great views of London. Let's get in and have a look. Now, when you get inside, there's a marker in the middle of St Paul's Cathedral on the floor, and it's the point where you are directly underneath the dome. The point that you are under the huge, I think it's something like 66,000 tons, the weight of the dome. It's amazing. Christopher Wren wasn't actually an architect. He was a mathematician and astronomer, and he'd worked out how to support this huge, great dome. And there I am looking up, and look at the symmetry. It's absolutely phenomenal. And underneath me at this great central place, right underneath the dome, down in the crypt, it's a very special place for a very special person. Yes, this is the resting place directly under the dome of Lord Nelson, Horatio Nelson, famous of Trafalgar, and you'll see him in London on the top of the column at Nelson's Column at Trafalgar Square, but he actually lies in rest here at St Paul's, directly underneath the dome. Of course, he died before the Duke of Wellington. Had the Duke of Wellington died first, he might have been under the dome, who knows. Duke of Wellington is just to the right. So that's what it looks like in the crypt at the bottom, but let's see what it looks like in the dome from the top. But of course, there's one thing in the way between us and the dome at the top, and that is steps. Hundreds of them, hundreds and hundreds, big wide ones at the bottom, tiny little thin ones at the top, and they go on forever. I had to stop twice for a rest, but was it worth it? Boy, you bet it is. When we come out at this little turret at the top, look, with the iron fence, look at that, views of the city. There's the walkie-talkie building as we pan around. There's the Shard, highest point in London, the Thames flowing majestically down. That's Millennium Bridge there, and look at those rain clouds beyond. That's got to be worth a photo in a second. Coming around, we see the bridges, we see the London Eye there, and there's Big Ben in the distance. That's got to be worth a picture as well, hasn't it? Look, with the St Paul's turret in the foreground. The city of London is laid out in front of us. What a scene. Well worth coming up here. And that's the shot I was talking about a second ago, where you've got that little bit of St Paul's, look there, and the city spreading out beyond. I've put some HDR on this to give it that sort of almost unreal effect. Here's a rooftop cityscape. Look at that, with those sort of skyscrapers there, all glass coming through, almost like an iceberg sitting there amongst all the older buildings underneath. Absolutely astonishing. And look at those little people just in the foreground walking across that rooftop. That's amazing. Let's have a look at that Millennium Bridge shot. Oh yeah, that's worked really well with that rain cloud above. Look, and the sun streaming through. You can see the people going down. That's the shot we saw of St Paul's looking through the buildings on the way back. That we saw earlier on. And now I'm on the very top of that dome, doing the picture, looking back down that road towards Millennium Bridge. And you can see, is this St Paul on the rooftop here, looking down? And on the other side of the river, you can see the round white building of Shakespeare's Globe Theatre, built exactly as it was in Shakespeare's day. And you can still go now and see performances. It's open air, and it's well worth a visit. So it's back down now to the floor of St Paul's for another look around this spectacular cathedral. I want to give a big shout out now to our guide. He was absolutely brilliant. The best guide I've ever had around anywhere. So thank you so much. He took us to the American Memorial Chapel at the end of the cathedral, where the 28,000 American soldiers that were stationed in the UK who gave their lives in World War II are remembered here. And there's a book, a leather-bound book with every one of their names in, and new pages turned every day. And so we leave St Paul's now, and on our way out, I noticed on the steps at the front there was a woman dressed in a red dress. She was being videoed or something, but I couldn't resist a little snap as she was a red dress sort of juxtapositioned against that stonework. In fact, I'm going to call some of that stonework down in post, and of course there were a few people travelling up and down those steps. I just photoshopped them out to make the picture. So let's go and have some refreshments in the Tate Gallery. Just time for a sparkling water in the Tate Gallery cafe, and just have a look around, get ready for the journey home. And oh my goodness, look at that. Just looking to my right, through the windows, the most glorious view of St Paul's. We've just been there on the very top, but I like all these people in the foreground, and I think if I underexpose that a little bit, I should get silhouettes of them and a beautiful view of the city line. And look at that, the most unexpected picture of all. I only came in for a drink, and that's a lovely picture. I really like that. So it's been a great 24 hours exploring and taking pictures as I go around London. You really need to come here. Please get on a plane, get on a coach, a train, whatever you've got to do to get down there, because this is a mecca for photographers. Everything you could want to photograph is there, all in one place. Whatever you're into, I guarantee you'll find it there. And while you're there, take 5 minutes to try some photography that you wouldn't normally do, something that may be out of your comfort zone. And if you want to know a little bit more about becoming a better photographer by going out of your comfort zone, watch this video here.